with us. So, again, the big podcast with Shaq, we're just every day rolling through new quotes. I wonder how this is going to sit with everyone. As Draymond says, and here's the quote that's got everybody going. Dibs, the NBA is not set up for us to be wealthy. The NBA is not set up for us to be wealthy. Feels like we might need some context.
Please.
So here it is.
Okay.
The fines, to me, don't make sense. You know, when you talk about as hard as we work to accumulate wealth, coming from situations that most people never make it out, and then you get fined the way we get fined, it's actually not set up for us to be wealthy after we're done playing. This job is not set up the way we're taxed.
Oh, California?
The way we're taxed, the way we're fined. And, you know, you hear about all these programs like this program, this program. That is to cover everybody. This program is to teach this guy this. But if I do something wrong, I lose $100,000. Man, it took my mom 4 years when I was growing up to make $100,000. And I lose that in the night because, what? The referee got mad at me, and he didn't like what I said to him. So I lose $5,000 like that, like on a tech.
How'd that one grab you?
Not great. Not great, Mark.
Please explain.
Didn't grab me great.
Okay.
Because
let's hear it.
He's making a comparison to his mom, who I've had the pleasure of interviewing on this very station. We had her on a weekly. Mary Babers Green. Lovely woman. She gave good insight about Draymond and herself and her relationship with Draymond. It was nice to talk to a mom of an NBA player. And he mentions that it took her years to make $100,000. 4 years, yeah. Which probably means she was making $25,000 a year, if my math is accurate. And I believe that Draymond does a little bit better than that. And I'm looking at how much he makes per game, and it's about $300,000 a game. It's $293,989 a game. So when he gets fined $100,000, which is a lot, and it doesn't happen all the time. It's not like the NFL where you have the wrong socks on, or your shirt wasn't tucked in and you get fined $100,000. When Draymond gets fined $100,000, it's for what the league thinks is a good reason. And that turns out to be 1/3 of a game check. So that would be like you and I getting fined 3 days worth of pay, or somebody out there who's a listener. And if you're making, let's just say $100,000, not in 4 years, but in 1 year, and you're making, basically about $8,000 a month if you're making $100,000. And so you're making probably about 300 or so bucks a day, right? So that'd be a fine of about $100 for the average person making $100,000. So yes, I know what Draymond's saying. $100,000 is a lot, but miss me with the idea that the league is out to prevent you from getting rich, because I don't know of there's probably 450 players in the association, 15 times 30 roughly. How many of those 450 players got fined $100,000 this year? The answer is probably fewer than 10.
Not many. Yeah,
right.
Not many.
So I don't know if the league is out to prevent you from getting rich. Perhaps.
Let me play devil's advocate for just a second.
You could devil's advocate it up. I think a bigger question would be, why are you incurring these fines?
Well, sure. Of course. And that's a completely fair question. I just want to explore this for a little bit. And there's a bunch that I don't know. Where do they come up with these numbers? Where do they get that?
The fine amount?
Yeah, that's $100,000. Where did you get, what is that number? Because sometimes it's like, it's been fined $35,000. Where did, is somebody just sitting there that didn't quite feel like a $50K, but boy, it felt like more than a 25. So let's do 37.5. I mean, honestly, where do they come up with this? And is it also based on your history? Does it grow? Does your fine get bigger when you've had previous fines? Do you know? I'm asking these questions genuinely. Right. I don't know where those numbers come from.
I don't believe that there is a table or a tableau where the league says, all right, you use 3 F-bombs. That's $35,000. It just depends on the player. It depends on the infraction. Now, you hear coaches who are openly critical of officials, and that has a number.
Sure.
50. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 50, sometimes it's up to 100. It's interesting about punishments as well, because Patrick Beverley rifled the ball at a fan not once but twice, and he only got 4 games. And that punishment came about 5 days later, and I don't know how much the fine was. I'm trying to find that. I believe he also was fined. I don't know if it was $100,000, but to answer your question, I don't think that there's a cookie cutter, like you criticize the refs, you get this, you use profanity, you get that. I don't think that there is a boilerplate where you do a certain thing and you get a certain fine.
And isn't Patrick Beverley a free agent?
Yes.
So when you suspend him for 4 games, you don't even know how much you're suspending him for. You don't know how much that's going to cost him. 4 game checks might be $0.
Right.
He might not be on a team.
He might never play again.
Correct.
So he gets a 4-game suspension pending his future destination?
Pending a contract.
Right.
Yeah. What do you got, Grandy?
Patrick Beverley, as far as I could tell, did not get fined. His 4-game suspension is obviously without pay. Another thing from the playoffs, Jamal Murray, remember throwing a towel and a heating pad onto the court while the game was going on? Not suspended, but he was fined $100,000.
$100,000. Okay.
Right.
So Patrick Beverley actually might not have been punished at all. Am I hearing that correctly?
Well, depending on whether or not he plays again, right.
All right. So he might not have been punished at all.
If he's suspended for 4 games and he doesn't play another game, then he receives no punishment.
And there was no fine. So there's no fine.
Right.
And he's suspended for games that he might not even be eligible for. So that's interesting. I mean, I always just look at what is the equitable nature of all of these things? And I do wonder sometimes if that's why Draymond heads off in these sort of directions. You even heard Shaq made a big old noise when Draymond brought up taxes.
Taxes.
And Shaq brought up California. Obviously, he played for the Lakers, but he played in a lot of states because he was on the Magic and the Cavs and the Suns and the Celtics, and he played for the Heat. He played for everybody. So he let out a noise. Can I play it again? Listen to the noise that Shaq makes.
The fines, to me, don't make sense. You know, when you talk about as hard as we work to accumulate wealth, coming from situations that most people never make it out, and then you get fined the way we get fined, it's actually not set up for us to be wealthy after we're done playing. This job is not set up the way we're taxed.
Oh, California?
The way we're taxed, the way we're fined, and you hear about all these programs like this program, this program, that is to cover everybody. This program is to teach this guy this. But if I do something wrong, I lose $100,000. Man, it took my mom 4 years when I was growing up to make $100,000. And I lose that in the night because, what? The referee got mad at me, and he didn't like what I said to him. So I lose $5,000 like that, like on a tech.
It is interesting. Look, I know where a lot of minds are going right now, and no one's wrong. Okay, Draymond Green earns every single punishment that he gets. And in fact, he's earned ones that he hasn't gotten, right? I know most people feel that way about him punching Jordan Poole. There are a lot of punishments that he's earned that he never even got. So this is not a sympathy card for Draymond Green, but there is some stuff out there that does feel sort of like arbitrary. Like we're just hucking stuff against the wall and seeing if it sticks. The taxes are different in every single state, every single team. That at times could be a detractor for certain teams in free agency. When you're talking about millions of dollars and you're going up against a state that doesn't have state tax, like that's millions of dollars potentially that are on the line. What about a fine, which is a number that somebody just made up out of thin air? And the way Draymond says it, because the official got mad, we've all seen this. Even you, Dan Dibley, will admit there are moments, not normal, but there are moments where the official's frustration might lead to a quick hook or escalate a situation. And if they do that, now the player's getting fined because the ref was in a bad mood. I mean, and then the other thing I think he's saying, which, and I'm guessing here, but I wonder if he just didn't do the greatest job of explaining this. When he says it's not set up for us to be wealthy, he's in a job that pays just an ungodly amount of money.
Right.
But it also ends before you're 40 years old.
It does.
And you know what I mean? And there are those all the stories about what's the thing you said about Antonio Brown the other day?
He's bankrupt.
He's bankrupt.
Yeah. He's down to his last $50K.
He made $88 million.
Yeah.
And left the league, what, 3 years ago?
That's about right. Yeah.
He made $88 million. He left the league 3 years ago. He's bankrupt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, yes, bad decision after bad decision after who knows, maybe he's mentally ill. I don't know the man. So
Draymond Green has made a career total of $177,883,613, according to Sportskeeda. And he has incurred $2.2 million in fines and penalties over the course of his career.
Say it again. How much?
According to Sportskeeda, he has forfeited a staggering $2.2 million due to fines and penalties. And part of the penalties are the 5-game Chocoroba for Rudy Gobert. That cost him $769,000.
What about the indefinite suspension? Are we also factoring in just games lost?
Yes, I don't believe that in the indefinite suspension. I think that he got partial payment.
Okay.
I think Grandy was the one who mentioned this before, that you don't miss out on the whole, like your salary is not exclusively just game checks. There's part of that where you actually get paid anyway, but there are fines and ejections and technical fouls and all the rest of it. It says here that he lost $177,000 when he stomped on Damas Sabonis in the playoffs because that cost him a game. So the idea that the league does not allow them to incur to accumulate wealth, that's one that kind of misses me. Because if you look at Steph Curry, and I know he is somewhat of a golden child, not only in performance but in behavior as well. The only time that I can recall him being fined was when he threw his mouthpiece. And he got $25,000 for a thrown mouthpiece. So to your point, like where do these numbers, where do they come from? So you throw a mouthpiece, that's 25.
That's 25.
And you choke an opponent, that's 5 games. You rifle a basketball at a fan twice, that's 4 games. It depends on who you are, what your track record is, and all the rest of it. But I would push back at the idea that the league is preventing you from accumulating the wealth, because 95 to 98% of the players in the association don't have to worry about this level of fining and suspensions.
Well, he could have said it on behalf of other players and actually had maybe a better point than talking about himself, because he has made now multiple contracts that are 9-figure deals. So Draymond Green is wealthy and is going to be wealthy.
Right.
However, he also deserves a little credit because I think he's a smart guy, and I bet he's done really, really well with his money. He's also set up to be a very, very wealthy person after, because of his other talent. He's going to be a highly paid broadcaster, or who knows, head coach of the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
So there's no... This is not a sympathy thing by any stretch, but that number you just threw at me is a stunning one. Because one thing I have also learned about rich people, I've met a few, and thank you. I think those of us who are in the quote-unquote real world, you start to think, boy, if I had that kind of money, and then you fill in that blank, and that's usually something that's not true about people who do have that kind of money.
Right.
If I had that kind of money, I'd pay for all of my friends every time we went out to dinner. Or if I had that kind of money, here's what I know. Even if you have $300 million in the bank, it'd tick you off that someone took $2.2 million from you. Now, did you earn the loss? Maybe. That's a lot of money. No matter how much money you have, $2.2 million is a lot of money.
That's like 1% of what he's made on the court.
Right, but it's still a lot of money.
Well, think about however much money you have. For those of you out there listening, take your entire nest egg and then take 1% of it and just give it away, because it's, you're taking that amount of money. And if you're out there and you're sitting on $100,000, that means you take $1,000 and go ahead and give it to the league office because you can't avoid hitting LeBron in the groin and choking Gobert and punching Nurkic. Bye-bye, $1,000.
But it's not the same because that's what I'm getting at.
No, it's all relative, though, to what you have.
That's the percentage. But $1,000 under no circumstances is $2.2 million. It's just not.
No, but $2.2 million over the course of 12 years out of a nest egg of about $200 million, it's about the same.
But the point is that, like, no one's worried about Draymond eating. And by the way, he's made a lot more than that.
I'm sure.
He's made a lot more than that. So, yeah, it's like I get what you're saying based on a percentage, but I'll never forget this. Get the drip ready again there, Grandy. So I'm doing the show with Michael Thompson years ago. Whoop. And Klay got into something with someone, just got tangled up. And
on the floor?
Yeah, it was on the floor, and it spilled off into the sideline. This is a long time ago. Klay's a pup. And I can't even remember all the circumstances of it. But he got tangled up. And there was a little, hey, the chests are up, and there's a shove, and there's this, that, and the other. Thank you for feverishly looking to look it up. I can tell what you're doing over there. I would love some more info on it because I can't remember the circumstances. But he got fined like $35K, something like that. Do you have the list of Klay Thompson fines in his history? I feel like it was either 25 or $35,000. There was a fine early in his career. Michael comes in the next day, and he's on one. And I'm like, why are you, like, he's like, this is ridiculous. We got to talk about this. I'm like, what do we got to talk about? Pushing and shoving, and Klay's fine got announced. Okay, $35,000. I'm like, Michael, he makes like, he made $35,000 since you walked in the room a minute ago. Plus, you're filled with money. I already know about you. And Michael was, he could not let it go. And I'm like, why does this bother you so much? And he goes, why does this bother me so much? $35,000. And so that's what I'm getting at. Like, no matter how much you make, $35,000 is still $35,000. That's not a trip to the grocery store. That's a really great new car. Or whatever. It's a lot of money. So when you rock $2.2 million for Draymond Green in his career, you're right. It's a tiny portion.
That's a year of rent in the Bay Area. Am I right? Sorry, that went too soon.
Way too soon.
All I can see of Klay Thompson is this year with Jaden McDaniels, and he got the $25,000.
That's it?
I got it from February 27th, 2013.
Well, that sounds right.
Escalating an incident between David Lee and Roy Hibbert during a Warriors-Pacers game, fined $35,000.
There it is.
Okay, good job, Grandy.
Good
hustle.
My memory, I got the number right.
Great hustle.
And I remember it because Michael yelled it into the microphone the next one. He's like, $35,000.
Oh, my God. And I'm reading an article where Michael Thompson won't cut his allowance as a result.
I told you about all that, right?
Yeah.
I told you that story.
So Klay would make money, and he'd have to send it to Michael, and Michael would give him like an allowance. Was basically it.
Michael had a whole thing that he would give Klay like $900 a month. Klay's contract would go directly to Michael.
He was making $2.2 million his rookie year.
He said all the money comes to me because I'm a former NBA player and I don't want him to blow it. So I handle like a nice one-bedroom apartment for him, and I give him about $900 a month if he ever wants to take a girl to a nice meal.
It says here $300 a week.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
He said about $900 to $1,000 a month. And he had this whole bit. He's like, if he ever wants to take a girl to ice cream, they can go to ice cream. He goes, but what else does he need? The meals are taken care of everywhere he goes. He doesn't need, like, breakfast is there, lunch is there, dinner is there. He's a warrior. He doesn't need to worry about any of this stuff. So I send him $900 a month. And Michael would be so firm with it that, and you just sort of move on. You're like, okay. And it built and built and built till someone finally cornered Klay up here in the locker room and asked him about it. And then Michael went off the next day. He's like, did you morons believe me?
Oh.
He goes, that's not...
Really quick, I know we got to hit a break. So Roy Hibbert comes running down the lane in kind of a quasi-fast break, kind of shoulder checks David Lee.
Yes.
The play continues. The Pacers put up a shot. As the shot goes up, David Lee shoves Roy Hibbert to kind of get him back, and then the whistles blow. There's a foul. There's kind of a scrum. Klay Thompson's kind of off to the side, but kind of gets pushed into the scrum, and he kind of just stands there doing nothing, and then out of nowhere, he takes a couple of steps towards Roy Hibbert and just shoves him out of bounds.
That's
and that was it.
$35,000. There you go. Yeah, he was not happy about it.
And Michael is quoted from an LA radio show, which must have been yours, as saying, I was like, you idiot.
Yep, that was us.